December 11th, 1941, 3 p.m., the Kroll Opera House, Berlin. Adolf Hitler strides to the podium of the Reichstag, flanked by swastika banners 3 stories tall. In 3 days, his forces will stand at the gates of Moscow. In 3 months, Rommel will drive toward Cairo. The Führer is smiling. He adjusts the microphone and begins to speak about America, the nation he is about to declare war upon. What is America? His voice drips with contempt. A country of millionaires, beauty queens, and stupid phonograph records. Half Judaized, half negrified. How can such a people fight? The Reichstag deputies erupt in laughter. Goering, seated in the front row, slaps his knee. They have no military tradition, no warrior spirit. They make automobiles and refrigerators. More laughter echoes through the opera house. Hitler's voice rises. We have defeated France in 6 weeks. We have crushed Poland in 26 days. What can the Americans do? Send us jazz music? What none of them knew, what none of them could possibly conceive, was that in that single moment of mockery, Hitler had just signed Germany's death warrant, not through military genius or heroic sacrifice, but through something far more terrifying: American industrial capacity operating at full war footing. Within 36 months, Albert Speer would sit across from Hitler in the same building, trembling, holding photographs of a single American factory that produced more aircraft per month than the entire Third Reich. Within 42 months, Hermann Goering would refuse to believe intelligence reports on B-17 production, because the numbers were, quite literally, beyond German comprehension of what was possible. Within 48 months, Admiral Dönitz would slam his fist on a conference table and scream that American shipyards were launching more tonnage in a week than his U-boats could sink in a month. This is not the story of American heroism. This is the story of a psychological breakdown. This is the chronicle of how Adolf Hitler and his inner circle went from racist contempt to creeping dread to screaming denial to catatonic despair, as they slowly, horrifyingly realized they had awakened an industrial colossus that would bury them under an avalanche of steel, aluminum, and high explosives they could neither match nor survive. This is the story of how Nazi Germany learned, too late, far too late, that they had lost the war the moment Hitler declared it. The confidence in that December Reichstag session was not mere bravado, it was grounded in what appeared to be observable reality. As Hitler spoke, Wehrmacht forces occupied territory from the Atlantic coast of France to the suburbs of Moscow, from the North Cape of Norway to the deserts of Libya. The German war machine had crushed every enemy it faced. Why would America be different? In the Führerbunker archives, a surviving intelligence assessment from Fremde Heere West, the Wehrmacht's military intelligence unit responsible for evaluating Western armies, delivers its verdict on American fighting capability in January 1942. The document, filed by Oberst Ulrich Liss, reads with clinical dismissiveness: the United States Army consists of approximately 1.8 million men, primarily National Guard units, with minimal combat training. Equipment is obsolete. Officer corps lacks battlefield experience. Doctrine is outdated. Infantry weapons are inferior to Wehrmacht standards. Armored forces are negligible. Industrial capacity is devoted to consumer goods, not military production. Assessment: the United States poses no credible military threat to German forces for a minimum of 3 years, possibly 5. 3 years, possibly 5. The assessment continues: American society is fragmented by racial tension, labor disputes, and regional divisions. Political leadership is weak. Jewish influence has corrupted military planning. Negroes are incapable of combat effectiveness. Assessment: even if mobilized, American forces would prove inferior to German troops in combat effectiveness, at a ratio of approximately 3:1. Oberst Liss signs the document. It is filed in Wehrmacht High Command archives. Nobody questions it. Why would they? Everything they have seen confirms German superiority. The Americans couldn't even defeat Filipino guerrillas in 1890. What could they possibly do against the Wehrmacht? But there is one man in Hitler's inner circle who does not share the laughter. His name is Fritz Todt, and he is Reich Minister for Armaments and Munitions. Todt has spent the past year touring German factories, calculating production rates, studying logistics. He has seen the intelligence estimates on American industrial capacity, and the numbers, if true, terrify him. February 1942. The Reich Chancellery. Todt requests a private meeting with Hitler. The two men sit in Hitler's office, and Todt opens a leather portfolio containing production forecasts. He speaks carefully, respectfully, but his message is unambiguous. Mein Führer, this war cannot be won by military means. Hitler looks up sharply. Todt continues, I have reviewed the intelligence on American industrial capacity. If the reports are accurate, if the Americans dedicate their automobile factories to military production, we cannot match them. We cannot even approach them. Ford Motor Company alone, a single company, has production capacity exceeding our entire aircraft industry. Hitler's face darkens. American propaganda. Mein Führer, I have verified the assessments through multiple sources. The American automotive industry produces 8 million vehicles per year in peacetime. That is more vehicles than Germany, Italy, and Japan combined. If they convert those factories, they are soft. Hitler cuts him off. Decadent. They cannot endure hardship. They will not sacrifice. We have the will. We have the warrior spirit. That is what wins wars. Todt closes his portfolio. He has said what he came to say. 3 weeks later, on February 8, 1942, Fritz Todt dies when his aircraft explodes after takeoff from Hitler's headquarters. The cause is never conclusively determined. Todt is replaced by a young architect named Albert Speer, who knows nothing about weapons production, but everything about managing Hitler's ego. Speer will later write, I entered my new position believing we could win through superior German engineering and efficiency. That belief would last exactly 14 months. Through early 1942, the confidence holds. Yes, the Americans have declared war, but they are fighting Japan in the Pacific. They are sending supplies to Britain and the Soviet Union, but actual American combat forces, the Wehrmacht faces none. In North Africa, Rommel battles the British. In Russia, the Wehrmacht battles the Red Army. America is a theoretical threat, not an actual one. Then the intelligence begins to change. May 1942. A Luftwaffe reconnaissance aircraft photographs the Kaiser Shipyards in Richmond, California. The photographs are analyzed by intelligence officers in Berlin. Someone has made a mistake. The analysis is sent back for verification. The photographs must be mislabeled, or perhaps they show multiple shipyards combined into a single composite. Because according to the imagery, the Richmond facility is launching 110,000-ton cargo ship every single day. Every single day. The photographs are reanalyzed. No mistake. The Americans are using a technique called assembly line shipbuilding, applying Henry Ford's automotive manufacturing methods to cargo vessel construction. What takes German shipyards 6 months, the Americans are doing in 30 days. What takes German shipyards to build one ship, the Americans are doing to build an entire convoy. The report reaches Admiral Karl Dönitz, commander of the Kriegsmarine's U-boat fleet. Dönitz is Germany's great hope for strangling Britain and preventing American forces from crossing the Atlantic. His U-boats are sinking Allied shipping faster than it can be replaced. He is winning the Battle of the Atlantic, or so he believes. Dönitz reads the Richmond shipyard report and writes in his war diary, if these production figures are accurate, our entire strategic calculation is incorrect. We are sinking approximately 700,000 tons per month. If the Americans can produce 1.5 million tons of new shipping per month, we cannot win the tonnage war. But the figures must be inflated for propaganda purposes. No nation can build at such a rate. His U-boats continue their hunt. November 1942. American forces land in North Africa. Operation Torch. Finally, Wehrmacht units engage American troops in combat. The Germans wait to see if their assessments of American fighting quality are accurate. The initial results seem to confirm every assumption. At Kasserine Pass in February 1943, Rommel's Afrika Korps smashes through American defensive positions, inflicting devastating casualties, capturing thousands of prisoners. American units break and run. The Germans mock them as our Italians, a reference to their unreliable Italian allies. General Major Fritz Bayerlein, Rommel's chief of staff, writes after the battle, "The Americans are brave but tactically incompetent. Their equipment is good, but they do not know how to use it. They will learn, perhaps, but it will take years. By then, the war will be over." But something else happens at Kasserine Pass that the Germans do not initially recognize. The Americans absorb the defeat, analyze it, adapt to it, and return to battle with stunning speed. Units that broke in February are fighting effectively by March. The officer who failed at Kasserine is relieved and replaced within days. The Americans do not accept failure. They engineer solutions to it. Rommel notices, in a letter to his wife dated March 1943, he writes, "The Americans are learning faster than any enemy I have faced. They have limitless supplies. Every tank we destroy is replaced by tomorrow. Every aircraft we shoot down, 2 more appear. I do not know how long we can sustain this." That same month, the first intelligence reports on American aircraft production reach Berlin. The numbers are so absurd that Luftwaffe intelligence officers assume they are reading monthly figures when they are actually reading weekly figures. When the error is corrected, there is stunned silence in the briefing room. General Oberst Hans Jeschenek, Luftwaffe Chief of Staff, stares at the corrected assessment. It states that Boeing, Consolidated, Douglas, and Lockheed are producing 5,000 heavy bombers per month. Germany's entire aircraft industry, fighters, bombers, transports, reconnaissance aircraft, everything, produces approximately 1,500 aircraft per month total. Jeschenek orders a verification. The assessment is verified. The numbers are real. He walks to Hermann Göring's office and places the report on the Reichsmarschall's desk. Göring reads it and begins laughing. "This is comedy. Someone in American intelligence is playing a joke on us. 5,000 heavy bombers per month. Impossible. We would need to see photographic evidence. The photographic evidence is already being compiled." June 1943. Berchtesgaden. Albert Speer sits in his office, reviewing the latest intelligence summaries from captured Allied materials and reconnaissance photographs. For the past year, he has tried to ignore the reports on American production capacity because they make no mathematical sense, but the evidence is becoming impossible to dismiss. A folder arrives from Luftwaffe intelligence, marked "Urgent, verification required." Speer opens it. Inside are reconnaissance photographs taken by high-altitude Luftwaffe aircraft over England, images of American bomber formations staging for missions over Germany. The analysts have counted the aircraft in the photographs. Then they have compared the tail numbers to previous reconnaissance images to track how many unique aircraft appear in the formations. The conclusion is devastating. The Americans are rotating bomber groups through missions so quickly that the majority of aircraft photographed each week are different aircraft than the previous week. The analysts estimate the Americans have a reserve of approximately 3,000 heavy bombers in England alone. 3,000. Germany's entire operational Luftwaffe, every aircraft, every front, numbers approximately 4,500 aircraft total. Speer requests additional intelligence on American production facilities. What arrives makes him physically ill. The report focuses on a single factory, the Willow Run plant in Michigan, operated by Ford Motor Company. The facility is 1 mile long. It employs 42,000 workers operating in 3 shifts. The factory produces 1 B-24 Liberator heavy bomber every 63 minutes. 1 bomber per hour from 1 factory. Speer does the mathematics. 63 minutes per bomber equals approximately 17 bombers per day, equals approximately 500 bombers per month, from 1 factory. The Willow Run plant alone produces more heavy bombers per month than Germany's entire aircraft industry produces total aircraft of all types. There are photographs. Speer stares at aerial reconnaissance images of Willow Run. The assembly line is visible through the factory roof. He can see the bombers moving down the line like automobiles. Outside the factory, there are parking lots filled with completed B-24s waiting for delivery. So many aircraft they appear as a silver carpet stretching across the landscape. Speer picks up the telephone and requests an immediate meeting with Hitler. June 23rd, 1943. The Berghof, Hitler's mountain retreat. Speer arrives carrying a leather briefcase containing the intelligence reports and photographs. He is ushered into Hitler's study. Goering is already present, along with Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel. Hitler is in good spirits. The Wehrmacht has just halted a Soviet offensive at Kursk. Speer opens the briefcase and begins laying photographs on Hitler's desk. Mein Führer, we have received verified intelligence on American war production. I must show you what we are facing. Hitler glances at the photographs with mild interest. Speer continues, this is the Ford Willow Run plant. Single facility. It produces one heavy bomber every hour. This is the Kaiser Richmond Shipyard. It produces one cargo vessel every day. This is the Chrysler tank arsenal. It produces more tanks per month than all of Germany. Hitler's expression begins to harden. Speer presses on. Mein Führer, the Americans have converted their entire automotive industry to war production. They are producing aircraft, ships, tanks, and vehicles at a rate we cannot match. We are being outproduced by a factor of approximately 5-1. Goering interrupts. This is enemy propaganda. The photographs are fabrications. The Americans are feeding us disinformation to destroy morale. Speer turns to Goering. Reichsmarschall, these photographs were taken by our reconnaissance aircraft. The intelligence has been verified through multiple independent sources, including Swedish diplomatic contacts and captured prisoners. The numbers are real. Hitler picks up one of the Willow Run photographs and studies it. His hands begin to tremble, a symptom of the Parkinson's disease that will progressively worsen. His voice is quiet, dangerous. One factory produces 500 bombers per month. Approximately, yes, mein Führer. Hitler throws the photograph across the room. It flutters to the floor. Lies! His voice explodes into a scream. American Jews fabricating numbers to frighten us. Do you think I am a fool? Do you think I will believe such fantasy? He stands, pointing at Speer. You have been deceived by enemy propaganda. The Americans are soft. They are weak. They cannot sustain production. Their workers will strike. Their factories will collapse. Speer stands his ground. Mein Führer, the evidence. Hitler's face is crimson. I will tell you the evidence. The evidence is that German workers produce the finest weapons in the world. German engineering is superior. German will is unbreakable. What do I care if the Americans make refrigerators quickly? War is not won by refrigerators. Keitel, ever the sycophant, nods enthusiastically. The Führer is correct. Quality defeats quantity. But Goering is silent. He has seen the photographs. He has read the numbers, and he knows what they mean for the Luftwaffe. The meeting ends. Speer gathers his photographs and returns to Berlin. That night, he writes in his diary, I have seen the future, and we have lost. The Führer cannot accept reality. He believes will can overcome mathematics. But mathematics does not care about will. The Americans have built a machine that will bury us, and we are standing in its path, screaming at it to stop. 3 weeks later, the Americans demonstrate exactly what Speer fears. July 24th, 1943. Hamburg. 2 a.m. Air raid sirens wail across the city. This is not unusual. British bombers have been hitting Hamburg regularly. The city's residents move to their shelters, expecting another night of high explosive and incendiary bombs. What they do not expect is what the RAF has planned. The British drop a new device called Window, strips of aluminum foil that blind German radar. Suddenly, German night fighters cannot find the bombers. Anti-aircraft batteries fire blindly into the darkness. The British bombers devastate Hamburg with incendiary bombs, creating a firestorm that kills 42,000 civilians in a single night. But it is not the British attack that breaks something in German high command. It is what follows. July 25th, daylight. The air raid sirens sound again. This time it is the Americans. Over 300 B-17 flying fortresses appear over Hamburg in broad daylight, flying in formation, escorted by long-range fighters. They bomb Hamburg's industrial sector with precision. The Luftwaffe scrambles every available fighter. They shoot down 19 American bombers. The Americans keep coming. July 26th. The Americans return. Same numbers. Same targets. The Luftwaffe shoots down 15 bombers. The Americans keep coming. July 27th. The Americans return again. The Luftwaffe shoots down 18 bombers. The next day, reconnaissance shows the American bomber formations over England have not decreased in size. Every bomber the Luftwaffe shoots down has been replaced overnight. In the Luftwaffe High Command bunker in Berlin, there is a meeting that will be remembered by every officer present. Goering stands before a map showing bomber formations. His hands are shaking. An intelligence officer delivers the assessment. Reichsmarschall, we estimate we destroyed 52 American heavy bombers over Hamburg. Based on reconnaissance of English airfields, the Americans have added 74 new bombers to their force. In 3 days, they replaced 52 bombers and added 22 more? Yes, Reichsmarschall. Where do they come from? America. Reichsmarschall. By ship. Continuous convoys. The bombers are flown across the Atlantic or shipped in parts and assembled in England. Goring sits down heavily. He is silent for nearly a minute. When he speaks, his voice is barely audible. We cannot win an attrition war against such production. Someone suggests deploying more fighters. Goering laughs. A bitter, broken sound. More fighters. With what? We produce 40 fighters per day. The Americans produce 200 bombers per day. Do you understand? Do you understand? His voice rises to a shriek. They are outbuilding us 5-1, and their aircraft are in the air while ours burn on the assembly lines. We are fighting the sky itself. The room is silent. Everyone present understands what Goering has just admitted. The Luftwaffe cannot win. It can only delay. It can only die slowly. August 1943. The United States 8th Air Force launches a mission against ball-bearing factories in Schweinfurt and Messerschmitt production facilities in Regensburg. It is one of the deepest penetrations into German airspace attempted in daylight. The Luftwaffe throws everything available at the American formations. Over 300 fighters attack in waves. The Americans lose 60 bombers and 600 men in a single day. It is a bloodbath. It is the highest loss rate of the entire air war. In Berlin, there is brief celebration. 60 bombers destroyed. Perhaps the Americans can be bled dry after all. The celebration lasts 3 days. On the 4th day, reconnaissance shows the American bomber force in England has grown by 90 aircraft. Not only have they replaced their losses, they have expanded. A captured American navigator, shot down over Schweinfurt, is interrogated by Luftwaffe intelligence. The interrogator asks him about morale after such devastating losses. The navigator looks confused. What devastating losses? They told us we did good. They said we'd be back in 3 days after replacement crews arrived. Replacement crews are already in England? Sir, replacement crews arrive every week. Thousands of them. They come by ship. We've got so many pilots waiting for aircraft that some guys are sitting around playing cards for 2 weeks before they fly their first mission. The interrogator files his report. It is read by General Oberst Hans Jeschonek, who has been Luftwaffe Chief of Staff since 1939. Jeschonek has seen Germany conquer Poland, France, Yugoslavia, Greece. He has planned the air campaigns that destroyed enemy air forces on the ground. He is a true believer in German victory. On August 18, 1943, 1 day after the Schweinfurt raid, Hans Jeschonek puts a pistol to his head and pulls the trigger. He leaves a note. I can no longer work with Goering. I can no longer pretend we can win. The suicide is officially attributed to overwork and strain. But everyone in the high command knows the truth. Jeschonnek saw the numbers, he understood the mathematics of industrial war, and he chose death over watching Germany's slow destruction. That same month, Admiral Dönitz faces his own reckoning. The U-boat war in the Atlantic has turned catastrophic. In May 1943, Dönitz lost 41 submarines in 31 days. He withdrew his U-boats from the North Atlantic, hoping to develop new technologies, acoustic torpedoes, snorkel systems, faster submarines, that might reverse the tide. But the intelligence reports on American shipbuilding have become impossible to ignore. August 15th, 1943. Dönitz convenes a conference with his staff at U-boat headquarters in Berlin. On the table are shipping loss statistics and Allied construction figures. The numbers tell a story of utter defeat. Gentlemen, Dönitz's voice is calm, professional, but there is something dead in his eyes. In July, our U-boats sank 123,000 tons of Allied shipping. In the same month, American shipyards launched 1.6 million tons of new vessels. The Americans alone, not counting British construction, replaced our monthly sinking rate 13 times over. 13 times. He picks up a photograph of the Kaiser shipyards. These facilities operate 24 hours per day. They are launching Liberty ships using prefabricated sections. The Americans have reduced construction time to an average of 42 days per vessel. Some shipyards have built ships in under 2 weeks as publicity demonstrations. One of his officers speaks, "Herr Admiral, if we increase U-boat production..." Dönitz cuts him off. "We cannot increase production enough. We would need to sink 2 million tons per month to keep pace with American construction alone. That would require sinking 65 large cargo ships every single day. We have never approached such numbers. We will never approach such numbers." He pauses. "The Americans are building ships faster than we can build torpedoes to sink them." The room is silent. Finally, someone asks the question everyone is thinking: can we win the tonnage war? Dönitz looks at the man. "No. We lost it the moment America entered the war. We just didn't know it yet." In his diary that night, Dönitz writes, "The Führer asks daily when we will resume unrestricted operations in the Atlantic. I do not have the heart to tell him the truth. We have already lost. The Americans have turned the Atlantic into a highway. Soon it will be packed with their armies, and there is nothing we can do to stop them." January 1944. The Wolfschanze, Hitler's headquarters in East Prussia. The atmosphere is grim. The Red Army has broken the siege of Leningrad. The Allies are pushing up the Italian peninsula, and the intelligence reports from the West are becoming hallucinatory in their implications. Albert Speer arrives for a briefing on armaments production. He carries a folder marked U.S. War Production Assessment, Eyes Only. Hitler is meeting with his generals, discussing force deployments for the anticipated Allied invasion of France. Speer waits his turn. When Hitler finally calls him in, Speer notices the Führer looks older. The tremor in his hands is more pronounced. His left eye twitches periodically. A new development. Speer spreads documents across the map table. "Mein Führer, I must present the updated assessment of Allied production capacity. The figures have been verified through multiple intelligence sources, including Swedish contacts, captured documents, and aerial reconnaissance. More American propaganda, I assume. Mein Führer, in 1943, the United States produced 85,000 aircraft. Germany produced 25,000. The United States produced 29,000 tanks. Germany produced 12,000. The United States launched 19 million tons of shipping. Germany launched 1.2 million tons. The numbers hang in the air. Hitler stares at the documents. Impossible. Mein Führer, we have photographic evidence. The American industrial capacity is beyond anything in history. They have 40 million men employed in war production. 40 million. Their factories operate 3 shifts, 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. They have no resource shortages, no labor shortages, no bombing of their factories. Hitler's face darkens. German workers are superior. German engineering. Mein Führer, I am not discussing quality. I am discussing quantity. The Americans are producing adequate weapons in overwhelming numbers, and they are improving. Their newest aircraft match our performance. Their newest tanks match our armor. They have closed the quality gap while maintaining a 5-to-1 production advantage. Hitler stands abruptly, sending his chair sliding backward. 5-to-1. His voice is a shriek. You stand here and tell me the Americans who could not defeat the Kaiser in 1917 without French and British help, are outproducing the German Reich 5-to-1. Conservatively, some estimates place it at 7-to-1. Hitler begins pacing, his movements jerky, agitated. It is a conspiracy. The Jews in America are feeding us false numbers to destroy morale. The photographs are fabrications. The intelligence is planted. He whirls on Speer. Do you believe this? Do you truly believe a nation of Negroes and immigrants can outproduce German workers? Speer meets his eyes. Mein Führer. Yes, I believe it because I have seen it. The evidence is overwhelming. For just a moment, something breaks in Hitler's expression. Confusion. Fear. A child's incomprehension of a world that refuses to match his beliefs. Then his face hardens into rage. Get out! Get out! Take your defeatist propaganda and leave. I will not listen to this. German will is superior. German engineering is superior. We will produce wonder weapons that will make American numbers irrelevant. Speer gathers his documents and walks to the door. He turns back. Mein Führer, the Americans are already producing the wonder weapons. In overwhelming numbers. The door closes behind him. In the hallway, he passes Field Marshal Keitel, who has been listening. Keitel says quietly, "You should not have said that." Speer looks at him. Someone has to. The Führer will not believe defeat is possible. Then the Führer will learn the truth from American bombs and American tanks. Perhaps he will believe those. That same week, the Americans demonstrate exactly what Speer means. January 11th, 1944. The 8th Air Force launches Operation Argument, later known as Big Week, a series of massive coordinated strikes against German aircraft production facilities. Over 3,000 American heavy bombers hit factories across Germany, escorted by nearly 1,000 long-range fighters. The Luftwaffe scrambles everything available to defend. German fighters attack in waves, pressing their attacks to point-blank range, despite murderous defensive fire from bomber formations. The Luftwaffe shoots down 226 American heavy bombers and 60 fighters in 6 days of combat. It is a bloodbath. It is the highest loss rate of the air war, and it accomplishes absolutely nothing. Within 2 weeks, reconnaissance shows American bomber strength in England has not decreased. Replacement aircraft and crews have already arrived. The factories the Luftwaffe defended have been destroyed anyway. German aircraft production drops by 30%, and the Americans are planning their next offensive. In the Führer bunker, Göring receives the damage assessment. Someone asks if the Luftwaffe can sustain such defensive operations. Göring's response is recorded in the meeting minutes. Sustain? We cannot even survive. We destroyed 226 American bombers at the cost of 355 German fighters and pilots we cannot replace. The Americans lost 226 machines they will replace by next month. We lost 355 pilots who cannot be replaced ever. They are trading aluminum for blood, and they have unlimited aluminum. A week later, Göring stops attending daily briefings. He retreats to his estate at Hall, increasingly dependent on morphine, disconnected from reality. When he does attend meetings, he spends much of the time blaming his subordinates for failures, or staring silently at maps. The man who once promised to defend Germany's skies has mentally collapsed under the weight of mathematical impossibility. February 1944. The intelligence assessments grow darker. A report reaches Wehrmacht High Command detailing American ground force deployments in England. The analysts count divisions, estimate troop strength, calculate logistics capacity. The numbers are staggering. Over 1 million American troops are already in England. 4 million more are in training in the United States. The Americans are stockpiling equipment for an invasion force that will dwarf anything in military history. When the invasion comes, the Americans will land with more tanks than Germany has on the entire Western Front, with more artillery than Germany has ammunition to sustain counter-battery fire, with air support that will make daylight movement suicidal for German forces. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, assigned to defend France, reviews the intelligence. He tours the Atlantic Wall fortifications and writes to his wife, "The preparations are impressive, but I have seen what the Americans can do in North Africa. Their material superiority is crushing. If they establish a beachhead, when they establish a beachhead, I do not believe we can drive them back into the sea. We will need to defeat them on the beaches, or not at all." He writes a separate assessment for Hitler, more tactfully worded, but equally bleak. American air superiority will be absolute. American naval firepower will destroy any concentration of armor near the coast. Our panzer divisions must be positioned close to the beaches to counterattack immediately, or they will be interdicted by air attack before they can engage. I request freedom to position forces accordingly. Hitler refuses. He demands the panzers be held in reserve under his personal control. When they are needed, he will personally authorize their deployment. Rommel puts down the communication and tells his aide, "We have already lost." A routine Luftwaffe intelligence briefing includes reconnaissance photographs of American airfields in southern England. The analyst walks Hitler through the images, pointing out bomber formations, fighter groups, supply depots. Hitler appears bored until the analyst mentions one detail. "Mein Führer, we have identified a new phenomenon. The Americans are parking completed aircraft in fields near their airfields because they have run out of hangar space. We estimate there are between 2,000 and 3,000 aircraft in storage. Operational bombers and fighters with no crews to fly them. They are keeping them in reserve." Hitler looks up sharply. "In reserve?" "Yes, mein Führer. Excess capacity. More aircraft than crews immediately available." Hitler stands and walks to the photographs spread across the table. He stares at the images of endless rows of silver aircraft parked in English meadows. Something in his expression shifts. A crack in the armor of delusion. His voice is very quiet. "They have so many aircraft, they park them in fields." Hitler continues, staring at the photographs. Nobody speaks. After nearly a minute, Hitler walks out of the briefing without another word. The officers look at each other, uncertain. Keitel follows Hitler and finds him standing alone in a corridor, staring at the wall. "Mein Führer, what if Speer is right? What if the numbers are real?" Keitel doesn't know how to respond. Hitler continues, almost to himself. "Fields full of aircraft, parking them in meadows like automobiles. They have more than they need, more than they can even use." He turns to Keitel, and his expression is haunted. "How do we fight that? Superior German fighting spirit, quality over quantity. The Americans are soft. They cannot endure casualties." Hitler's laugh cuts him off, a sharp, bitter bark. "Casualties. Yes. They cannot endure casualties. That is why they lost 226 bombers in a week and came back with more planes than before." He walks away, leaving Keitel standing alone. That night, Hitler summons Speer to a private meeting. No stenographer, no witnesses. The conversation is never officially recorded, but Speer will later recall it in his memoirs. Hitler speaks first. "The photographs of the aircraft in England. You have seen them?" "Yes. Mein Führer, your assessment was correct, wasn't it? The production numbers, the capacity, all of it." Speer says nothing. Hitler continues, "I did not want to believe it. I could not believe it. How does a democracy outproduce a dictatorship? How do soft, luxury-addicted Americans work harder than disciplined German laborers? It violates every principle of National Socialist philosophy. Mein Führer, perhaps our philosophy was wrong about industrial capacity." Hitler slams his fist on the desk. "No, the philosophy is correct. It must be correct. Therefore, the Americans must have some advantage we have not identified. Perhaps the Jewish plutocrats are using financial manipulation. Perhaps they are using slave labor from Negroes. Perhaps. He stops. Even he knows how weak this sounds. Speer waits. Finally, Hitler speaks again, his voice almost pleading. Can we win? He has debated how to answer it. He decides on the truth. No, mein Führer. Not against American production combined with Soviet manpower and British intelligence. The mathematics are against us. What if we develop the jet fighter, the V weapons, new U-boats? Mein Führer, by the time we produce them in meaningful numbers, the war will be decided. The Americans will simply produce more conventional weapons to overwhelm our technical advantages. We can build one jet fighter, they will build 10 propeller fighters. The jet will run out of fuel. The 10 propeller fighters will destroy it on the ground. Hitler stares at his hands. The tremor is worse. When did we lose? December 11th, 1941. The moment you declared war on America. Hitler looks up sharply, anger flaring, but he sees Speer's expression, and the anger dies. You truly believe that? Yes, mein Führer. I believe we lost the war the day we made America our enemy. Everything since has been the mathematics working themselves out. Hitler dismisses him. Speer leaves, certain he will be arrested. He is not. Hitler never mentions the conversation again. But from that night forward, something changes in the Führer. He stops asking about American production. He stops discussing long-term strategy. He focuses entirely on immediate tactical decisions, often irrational ones, as if by micromanaging individual battalion movements, he can ignore the strategic reality crushing Germany from all sides. June 6, 1944, 6:30 a.m. Berchtesgaden. A telephone rings in the Berghof. An adjutant answers, listens, then runs to wake Hitler. The Führer has been sleeping. He is increasingly nocturnal, staying up until dawn discussing philosophy and military history, sleeping through the morning while his generals wait for decisions. Mein Führer, the invasion has begun. Enemy paratroopers have landed in Normandy. Amphibious forces are coming ashore. Hitler, groggy and irritated at being woken, waves his hand. Inform the headquarters. We will destroy them on the beaches. He rolls over to return to sleep. Mein Führer, Field Marshal Rommel requests permission to deploy the panzer reserves. No, it is a diversion. The real invasion will come at Calais. The panzers remain in reserve. The adjutant hesitates. Mein Führer, the reports indicate this is the main invasion. Thousands of ships, airborne divisions, the entire Allied force. I said no. Hitler sits up, fully awake now and furious. I will not be stampeded by enemy deception. The panzers deploy when I give the order. Not before. Now get out and let me sleep. The adjutant leaves. The panzer divisions sit in reserve, waiting for authorization to move. Allied air power owns the skies over Normandy. When the panzers finally receive movement orders, 8 hours later, after Hitler wakes and is briefed, they advance toward the beaches, under constant air attack. It takes 3 days to move forces that should have moved in 3 hours. By the time German armor reaches the invasion zone, the Americans have landed 75,000 troops and established a secure beachhead. Rommel, watching from his headquarters as American fighter bombers destroy his columns on every road leading to the coast, sends a message to Berlin. The enemy's air superiority is crushing. We cannot move in daylight. We cannot mass forces. We cannot sustain counterattacks. Without immediate reinforcements and air support, the front will collapse. The request for air support goes to Göring. The Reichsmarschall reviews Luftwaffe assets available in France, approximately 300 operational aircraft. The Allies have 5,000 aircraft over Normandy. Göring does not reply to Rommel's request. There is no reply to give. June 12, 1944. Hitler convenes a meeting with his generals at the Berghof. The subject is Normandy. The mood is tense. Rommel has sent another message, stating that American forces are expanding the beachhead, that German counterattacks are being destroyed by naval gunfire and airstrikes, that the situation is deteriorating rapidly. Hitler's response is to demand more attacks. The American soldier is weak. He cannot endure hardship. We will throw them back into the sea through pure will. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, overall commander in the West, tries to interject reality. Mein Führer, the Americans have established air superiority. They have naval gunfire support. They are landing supplies faster than we can destroy them. Every counterattack is defeated by their material superiority. Hitler is on his feet, screaming. You speak to me of material. German soldiers are worth 10 American soldiers. German fighting spirit defeats material. Attack. Attack again. I order continuous attacks until they are driven into the sea. Mein Führer, our forces are being destroyed. We need to conserve strength, establish a defensive line further inland, force them to overextend their supply lines. No, every meter of French soil is sacred German territory. We defend every meter. We yield nothing. Attack. The meeting ends. Von Rundstedt returns to his headquarters and tells his chief of staff, "Make peace, you fools. What else can you do?" 2 weeks later, he is relieved of command for defeatism. But it is not the general's defeatism that is destroying Germany. It is reality. July 1944, American forces break out from Normandy. British and Canadian forces pin German divisions in place, while American armor sweeps through the breakout zone, destroying everything in their path. The Luftwaffe is nowhere to be seen. American fighters have destroyed German air power in France. Ground attack aircraft roam freely, destroying German armor, artillery, supply columns. In 1 week, American forces advance further than the Wehrmacht advanced in the entire French campaign of 1940. The Americans are using the same blitzkrieg tactics Germany pioneered, but with overwhelming material superiority. Every German tank destroyed is gone forever. Every American tank destroyed is replaced by tomorrow from the endless flow of equipment pouring ashore at Normandy. August 1944. The Falaise Pocket. German forces in Normandy are surrounded, trapped between American and Canadian pincers. The Americans offer surrender. Hitler orders them to break out. The breakout attempt becomes a slaughter. American artillery and air power destroys the German columns as they flee. Entire divisions cease to exist. 50,000 German soldiers are captured. The roads are littered with burning vehicles, dead horses, abandoned equipment. A Luftwaffe reconnaissance pilot flies over the Falaise Pocket and photographs the devastation. When the film is developed and shown to Hitler, he stares at the images in silence. Miles of destroyed German vehicles. Fields covered with dead German soldiers. The photographer has captured American supply columns, driving past the wreckage. An endless stream of trucks, tanks, artillery pieces, flowing east toward Germany. Someone asks Hitler if he has orders for the Western Front. Hitler doesn't respond. He continues staring at the photographs. Finally he speaks, his voice flat, emotionless. They have unlimited everything. We have nothing. He stands and walks out. The photographs remain on the table. September 1944. American forces reach the German border. Wehrmacht units, shattered from the Normandy fighting, attempt to establish defensive lines. But they are facing a force that no longer resembles the inexperienced troops who landed in North Africa 2 years earlier. The Americans advance with combined arms coordination that rivals German doctrine. Their artillery is devastating. They have more ammunition available than German forces can comprehend. One German officer, captured near Aachen, is interrogated about American tactics. He provides an assessment that stuns his interrogators. They are not the same army we fought in Tunisia. They have learned everything we taught them and improved upon it. Their coordination between infantry, armor, and air support is perfect. Their logistics are perfect, and they have unlimited ammunition. We fire 10 shells. They fire 1,000. We cannot win firefights. We cannot win tactical engagements. We can only die slowly or surrender quickly. The interrogation report reaches Berlin. Nobody shows it to Hitler. October 1944. Albert Speer presents his final production report to Hitler. German industrial capacity has collapsed under sustained Allied bombing. Synthetic fuel production is down 70%. Aircraft production is down 40%. Tank production is down 40%. The infrastructure that supports war production, railroads, bridges, is being systematically destroyed. Meanwhile, American production continues to increase. In 1944, the United States will produce 96,000 aircraft, 16 million tons of shipping. Numbers that would have seemed impossible in 1941, Speer presents the comparison to Hitler as gently as possible. Mein Führer, the production imbalance is now approximately 10 to 1. For every tank we produce, the Americans produce 10. For every aircraft we produce, they produce 10. We cannot sustain this ratio. Hitler's response is to order production increases, use slave labor more efficiently, extend factory shifts, move production underground. Mein Führer, we are already using every possible measure. The issue is not efficiency. The issue is raw material and industrial capacity. The Americans have both in unlimited quantities. The Me-262 jet fighter will sweep their bombers from the sky. The Type 10X-1 U-boat will sink their convoys. The V-2 rocket will destroy their cities. Speer tries to explain that wonder weapons cannot overcome a 10 to 1 production disadvantage. Hitler does not want to hear it. The meeting ends with Hitler ordering impossible production increases and Speer returning to his office knowing the orders cannot be fulfilled. November 1944. The intelligence reports on American strength in Europe become hallucinatory. Wehrmacht intelligence estimates the Americans have 60 divisions in France and the Low Countries, with more arriving monthly. Those 60 divisions are supported by 5,000 tanks, 10,000 artillery pieces, and complete air superiority. Germany has approximately 50 divisions on the entire Western Front, many of them under strength, poorly equipped, and filled with teenagers and old men. The Americans have more artillery ammunition in their forward supply dumps than Germany has produced in the entire war. Hitler reviews the intelligence and announces his strategic masterstroke, Operation Watch, on the Rhine. A massive offensive through the Ardennes forest, splitting the American and British forces, capturing Antwerp, forcing a negotiated peace in the West so Germany can focus on the Soviet Union. His generals are stunned. The plan requires perfect weather to negate American air power, perfect surprise, and German forces to advance faster than American forces can respond, using fuel Germany doesn't have and vehicles Germany cannot maintain. It requires American forces to collapse under pressure, despite 2 years of evidence that American forces do not collapse. Field Marshal Wilhelm Model, who is given command of the offensive, studies the plan and tells his staff, "This operation will end in complete disaster, but perhaps it will convince the Führer that we cannot defeat the Americans through offensive action." December 16th, 1944. The Ardennes. The offensive begins. Initial German success, they achieve surprise, break through American lines, advance rapidly. For 3 days it appears the plan might work. Then the weather clears. American air power appears. Thousands of fighter bombers and medium bombers destroy German columns. American reinforcements arrive with stunning speed, entire divisions redeployed in days, something German logistics could never accomplish. The American 101st Airborne holds the critical crossroads at Bastogne, despite being surrounded and outnumbered. Göring promises Hitler that the Luftwaffe will support the offensive. On the first day of clear weather, the Luftwaffe sends approximately 300 aircraft against American positions. The Americans respond with 5,000 aircraft. German losses are catastrophic. The Luftwaffe never attempts another large-scale operation in the West. By Christmas, the offensive is failing. By New Year's Day, it has failed completely. Germany has lost 100,000 men, 700 tanks, and 1,600 aircraft it cannot replace. The Americans have lost similar numbers, but replaced their losses within weeks. American forces are preparing to advance into Germany itself. In his bunker, Hitler receives the final assessment of the Ardennes offensive. Someone asks what should be done next. Hitler's response is recorded by his secretary. "We will form new divisions. We will deploy the Volkssturm. Every German man from 16 to 60 will fight. We will never surrender. Never. Nobody mentions that the Volkssturm, the people's militia, is being armed with captured weapons and whatever rifles can be scraped together, while American forces have unlimited ammunition for weapons so standardized that any unit can resupply any other unit. Nobody mentions that 16-year-old boys with rifles cannot stop American Sherman tanks. The meeting ends. Hitler has stopped listening to reality. His orders become increasingly divorced from military possibility. He demands offensives by divisions that no longer exist. He forbids retreats from positions that cannot be held. He executes generals for failure to achieve impossible objectives. His inner circle begins to understand. The Führer has broken. He cannot accept that he lost the war to a democracy he held in contempt. He cannot admit that American industrial supremacy has rendered German fighting spirit irrelevant. And so he has retreated into fantasy, issuing orders to phantom armies, believing that will alone can change mathematics. January 1945. The Western Front. American and British forces stand on German soil. The Luftwaffe has ceased to exist as an effective fighting force. German cities burn under day and night bombing. The Red Army is advancing from the east. Germany is dying. In his bunker beneath the Reich Chancellery, Adolf Hitler marks colored pins on maps, moving divisions that exist only on paper, planning counter-offensives with tanks that will never arrive. His hands shake constantly now. His left arm trembles. He walks with a shuffle. He is 55 years old and looks 70. Albert Speer visits the bunker to deliver the final industrial production report. Germany is producing almost nothing. What factories remain are being bombed around the clock. Fuel production has essentially ceased. The transportation network is destroyed. The war economy has collapsed. Speer finds Hitler alone in his study, staring at a photograph. It is an aerial reconnaissance image of an American supply depot in France. Acres of warehouses, thousands of vehicles parked in neat rows, mountains of supplies, stacked under tarpaulins. The photograph is dated December 1944. Hitler doesn't look up as Speer enters. He speaks quietly, almost to himself. I used to think this was propaganda. Trick photography, Jewish manipulation of images to destroy morale. He taps the photograph, but it is real, isn't it? They really have this much. They can really produce this much. Yes, mein Führer, I was wrong about them. Hitler's voice is barely audible. I said they were soft, incapable of sacrifice, decadent. I said they could not fight. Yes, mein Führer, I was wrong. Hitler looks up at Speer, and his expression is that of a lost child. How was I wrong? How did I not see this? The intelligence was there. The reports. The numbers. How did I dismiss it all? Speer has been waiting 4 years to answer this question honestly, because it contradicted your ideology, mein Führer. You believed racial superiority determined industrial capacity. You believed democracy was weakness. You believed Jews controlled everything. The evidence contradicted these beliefs, so you rejected the evidence. Hitler nods slowly. And now Germany burns, because I could not believe that a mongrel democracy could outproduce the master race. Yes, mein Führer, Speer. Hitler's voice hardens. When did you know we had lost? June 1943, when I saw the photographs of Willow Run. Why didn't you convince me? I tried, mein Führer. You called it propaganda. Hitler stands and walks to the bunker wall. He places his palm flat against the concrete, as if feeling for the bombs he knows are falling on the city above. If I had listened to you in 1943, what could we have done? Negotiated while we still held France and Italy. Accepted terms. Saved millions of lives. Unacceptable. Germany does not surrender. The war was already lost. We just had not admitted it yet. Hitler turns back to Speer. What are the production numbers now? Today, January 1945. How much are the Americans producing? In December 1944, the United States produced approximately 9,000 aircraft. Germany produced approximately 1,800. The United States produced approximately 2,500 tanks. Germany produced approximately 600. The United States has 11 million men in uniform. Germany has approximately 4 million effective combat troops remaining, and their industry is untouched. Completely untouched, mein Führer. No German aircraft has bombed an American factory since 1941. Their production capacity is at full strength. Ours is destroyed. Hitler sits down heavily. For a moment, his carefully constructed delusion cracks completely, and Speer sees the man beneath, exhausted, defeated, comprehending at last the magnitude of his miscalculation. I gambled everything on one assumption. That will defeats material. That spirit defeats machinery. That the superior race defeats the inferior numbers. Hitler laughs bitterly. But the Americans had both material and will. They had numbers and quality. They had production and innovation. And I was so blinded by ideology that I couldn't see it until they were standing at our borders with unlimited tanks. He looks at Speer. You know what haunts me. Not the battles we lost. Not the cities that burn. What haunts me is this. If I had simply not declared war on America in December 1941, if I had left them to fight Japan alone, would we have won against Britain and Russia? Possibly, mein Führer. Without American production supporting them, Britain and the Soviet Union might have collapsed or negotiated. We will never know. We will never know, because I was so confident, so absolutely certain of American weakness, that I declared war on them as casually as one would declare war on Luxembourg. Hitler's voice rises, and in that single moment of contempt, I doomed Germany. Everything after was just the mathematics working themselves out. As you said, he dismisses Speer. The armaments minister gathers his folders and walks toward the door. Hitler calls after him, Speer, when you write your memoirs, and you will survive this, you are too careful not to tell them the truth. Tell them Germany lost this war not on the battlefield, but in December 1941, when I declared war on an industrial power I did not understand. Tell them I was defeated, not by American soldiers, but by American factories. Tell them I lost to democracy because I could not believe democracy could outproduce dictatorship. I will, mein Führer. Good. Someone should learn from this, even if it is our enemies. It is the last substantive conversation he will have with Hitler. In the final months, Hitler's grip on reality will deteriorate completely. He will rave about miracle weapons, about betrayal, about Jewish conspiracies. But he will never again acknowledge what he admitted to Speer in January 1945, that he lost the war the moment he underestimated America. February 1945, the bunker. Goering visits Hitler to report on Luftwaffe status. There is no Luftwaffe status to report. The force has been destroyed. Goering is drug-addled, delusional, but even he cannot maintain the pretense. Mein Führer, we have approximately 1,200 operational aircraft. Many lack fuel, most lack experienced pilots. The Americans have over 8,000 aircraft in Europe. We cannot contest the sky. Hitler doesn't respond. Goering continues. Do you remember, mein Führer, when I promised you that if enemy aircraft ever bombed Berlin, you could call me Meyer? I was a fool. I believed our aircraft were superior, our pilots superior, our production sufficient. He laughs, a sick, broken sound. I should have changed my name to Meyer in 1943, when I saw their production numbers. Perhaps if I had believed the numbers, I could have prepared differently, but I couldn't believe them. They were impossible. Hitler says quietly, they were American. We simply could not conceive that a democracy could mobilize so completely. No, mein Führer, we could not. Goering leaves. He will be captured by American forces in May. During his interrogation, he will be shown films of American industrial capacity, tours of factories, shipyards, training facilities. He will watch in silence. When the films end, he will say to his interrogator, "Now I understand. We were fighting a machine that could not be stopped. We were fighting America's factories. And factories do not fear. They do not tire. They simply produce. March 1945. Admiral Donitz receives the final U-boat casualty reports. In March, 29 U-boats have been sunk. 0 Allied ships have been sunk by U-boats. The Battle of the Atlantic is over. The ocean belongs to America. Donitz will later write, "We lost the tonnage war in 1943. We lost the technology war in 1944. By 1945, we were simply dying slowly. The Americans had so many escort vessels, so many patrol aircraft, so many detection systems, that U-boat operations became suicide missions. We sent young men to die in steel coffins because we could not admit the war was lost. I will carry that guilt until my death." April 1945. Berlin is surrounded. Soviet forces attack from the east. American forces hold west of the Elbe River, waiting for the Soviets to take the city. In his bunker, Hitler issues orders to armies that no longer exist. He demands counterattacks from divisions that were destroyed months ago. His staff nods and files the orders, knowing they will never be executed. On April 22nd, Hitler finally admits reality during a conference with his remaining staff. The moment is recorded by Secretary Traudl-Jung. "The war is lost. Germany is destroyed. The Americans have won. Not through superior soldiers. Our soldiers fought better to the last. They won through industrial superiority we could not match and did not respect. I was told of their capacity in 1942. I rejected it as propaganda. I was shown evidence in 1943. I called it fabrication. I was given the final accounting in 1944. I ignored it, and now Berlin burns and the Americans prepare to occupy our country, and I cannot even blame them. They simply mobilized their industry and overwhelmed us. We fought the factories won." His staff is silent. Hitler continues, his voice rising to a shriek. "But it is not my fault. I was betrayed. My generals believed enemy propaganda. My armaments ministers sabotaged production. The German people lacked the will to sacrifice. Everyone failed me. Everyone except me. The delusion has returned. Reality, glimpsed for a moment, is rejected again." Hitler retreats to his private rooms. On April 30th, he will commit suicide, still blaming everyone except himself for the catastrophe he created. May 8, 1945. Germany surrenders unconditionally. Albert Speer is arrested by American forces. During his interrogation, he is shown the Strategic Bombing Survey's assessment of German war production. The survey includes detailed comparisons between German and American industrial capacity. Speer reads the numbers and puts the document down. "When did your intelligence services calculate that Germany could not win the production war?" His interrogator replies, "Early 1942. We knew that if we could mobilize our industrial capacity, Germany could not match us. And you mobilized. Completely. Total war economy. Every automotive factory converted to military production. Every shipyard building. Cargo vessels. 50 million workers in war industries by 1944. Speer is silent for a moment. Then, in 1943, I showed Hitler photographs of your factories. He threw the photographs and called them lies. I tried to explain that you had more industrial capacity than all of Europe combined. He would not believe it. He could not believe it. It contradicted everything he believed about racial superiority and democratic weakness. So, he rejected evidence. He rejected evidence until reality destroyed his country. Even then, even in the last days, he blamed betrayal rather than admit his fundamental assumptions were wrong. Speer pauses. May I tell you when Germany lost this war? Please. December 11th, 1941. The moment Hitler declared war on your country. Everything afterward was just Germany dying slowly, while Hitler refused to admit the mathematics. The interrogator writes this down. He will later tell Speer, you know what our industrial planners said when they heard Germany had declared war on us? They said, now we can show them what American production really means. They were excited, like engineers given a fascinating problem to solve. How much can we produce? How fast can we build? Can we outproduce Germany 10-1? What about 20-1? They treated it as an engineering challenge, and they won. Speer will spend 20 years in Spandau prison writing his memoirs. Inside the Third Reich, he will devote an entire chapter to the moment he realized Germany had lost, June 1943, holding photographs of Willow Run, understanding that American industrial capacity was beyond German comprehension or ability to counter. He will write, "We lost the war not when Berlin fell, but when Hitler mocked America in December 1941. Everything after was just the mathematics of industrial warfare working themselves to their inevitable conclusion." The statistics bear out his assessment. Final accounting of World War II production, the United States produced 297,000 aircraft. Germany produced 119,000. The United States produced 88,000 tanks. Germany produced 46,000. The United States produced 41 billion rounds of ammunition. Germany produced 10 billion. The United States launched 53 million tons of shipping. Germany launched 6 million tons. The United States did this while maintaining the highest standard of living in the industrialized world, while feeding Britain and the Soviet Union through Lend-Lease, while fighting a simultaneous war in the Pacific against Japan. Germany did this while strip mining occupied Europe, while using slave labor, while operating under total dictatorship, with absolute control of economic resources. Democracy outproduced dictatorship 5-1. Free workers outproduced slaves. American pragmatism defeated German ideology. And Adolf Hitler, who started the war confident that Americans could only make refrigerators, died in a bunker while American-made bombers turned Berlin to rubble and American-made tanks rolled through German streets. Remember that Reichstag session, December 11, 1941, Hitler standing at the podium laughing at American weakness, asking what such a soft mongrel nation could do in war. By May 1945, there was no one left to ask. The Americans had shown them, in factories that ran 3 shifts, 24 hours per day, in shipyards that launched a vessel daily, in assembly lines that produced a bomber every hour, in an industrial mobilization so complete, so overwhelming, that German leaders literally could not believe the evidence until American forces stood at their doors. Albert Speer was right. Germany lost the war the moment Hitler declared it. The rest was just mathematics. The Americans simply had more steel, more aluminum, more oil, more workers, more engineers, more production capacity, more trucks, more ammunition, more replacements, more everything. And when Nazi ideology met American industry, ideology lost. The factories won. They always do.